Dress it up and make it real for me.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Keith's Hot Takes. And on today's show, we're going to do a March Madness preview. And I have my guy Matthew on the show with me today. Matthew, how you doing today, bro?
I am great. Thank you for having me again. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yes, it is. Nonstop basketball until the first week of April, so it can't get no better than that. Before we get into talking about March Madness, I thought we would recap how Duke and North Carolina did at the ACC tournament. So Duke, they beat Syracuse in the quarterfinals. They ended that game on the 10-0 run. Syracuse, I guess they kind of ran out of gas, because they don't have a lot of depth. So, and not having Buddy Boeheim, that probably hurt them. Then they beat Miami in the semifinals, 80-76. And then, unfortunately for Duke, they came up short against Virginia Tech in the championship game, and they lost 82-67. And this was crazy. This was Virginia Tech's first conference title since 1979 when they were in the Metro Conference. And the difference in the game really was Duke struggled from deep. They were 4 of 20, and Virginia Tech was 10 of 22. And Hunter Couture, he had a career night. He couldn't miss 31 points, and he was 7 of 9 from deep. And Aluma had a double-double, 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. So he almost had a triple-double. So what were your thoughts about how your Blue Devils did in Brooklyn?
Well, Duke did not end the regular season on an extremely high note. I've been kind of up and down about what I think about Duke a lot of the season. They were the best in the ACC all year long. That was clear. Of course, the ACC had a bit of a down year. We're hearing a lot about that, especially the last week or so about the down ACC. I think you listen to the media, they were acting like the ACC was a mid-major. It wasn't that bad, but it was down. There's no doubt it was down. It wasn't as bad as some people made them out to be. But Duke was the best in the ACC for sure. And it's interesting because their inconsistencies this year, for the most part, had been on the offensive end of the ball. They had struggled at times. They'll hit 3, 4, 5-minute droughts where they can't hit a shot from the field. They can't even get to the foul line. Their struggles have been offensively. They turn the ball over a lot. But interestingly enough, the regular season finale against North Carolina, they couldn't stop anybody. They gave up 94 points. There were 4 different Tar Heels that scored 20-plus in that game. And then they struggled defensively in all 3 of their games at the ACC tournament. They gave up 79 points to Syracuse, like you said, without Buddy Boeheim. I think a lot of people went into that game when it was announced that Buddy Boeheim wouldn't be there thinking Duke's going to win by 20 again.
I did.
And they gave up 79 points, and then they gave up 76 to Miami. And then now Virginia Tech was a bit of a different story because I watched every second of that game. They were contesting most of those threes, and they were still going down. Virginia Tech, I said at the start of the tournament that the 2 teams that could be the most dangerous and go on the most unlikely runs in the tournament was Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. Didn't turn out very well for Wake, obviously, and that cost them a spot in the NCAA tournament. But Virginia Tech had a lot of expectations coming into the season, and they started the conference season 2-7. And now since then, they've only lost twice. They are ridiculously good at shooting the 3 as they showed the entire tournament. But they're also really good defensively, and no one talks about that part. They had the second best scoring defense in the ACC behind only Virginia. But Duke contested a lot of those threes. They were just going down. Hunter Couture, like you said, was ridiculous with 31 points. That gave him the Everett Case ACC tournament MVP. And Keve Aluma is a matchup problem for anybody, not just North Carolina, not just Duke, not just ACC teams. Keve Aluma is a matchup problem for anybody. So is Justin Mutz. Texas is about to find that out this weekend in the NCAA tournament. So I know I went a long way there to talk about Duke, but I'm concerned, no doubt, because this team, there's no doubt the talent is there. but they've had offensive inconsistencies all year long, and now they're having defensive inconsistencies too. That is not what you want heading into this tournament where you've got to win 6 straight, one and you're done, one loss and you're done. And they have a tough draw with either Michigan State or Davidson in the second round. And Cal State Fullerton's no pushover either in the first round, the Big West champion. So yeah, if you're a Duke fan, I think you should be concerned.
Yeah, like you said, Virginia Tech, they just kind of got hot, started Wednesday against Clemson, won in overtime, and then they carried over. I wasn't expecting them to beat Notre Dame, but, once you get a little momentum this time of year, it can be very dangerous for everybody you play. And like you said, I wasn't expecting Duke to lose. I thought Virginia Tech would be tired playing 4 games in 4 days, but they didn't show that. And for my Tar Heels, we beat Virginia 63-43, held them to 13 points in the first half. A lot of that was just because they couldn't buy a basket. They had some open looks that just didn't fall. And I think having to deal with Virginia Tech after playing Virginia, 2 teams who move a lot on offense, we don't play a lot of guys. I think that affected us because we went 3 for 26 from deep, so we did way worse than y'all did from deep. And really, nobody had a good night shooting but Armando Bacot, who had 19 points and 14 rebounds. That was his 25th double-double of the year. And North Carolina, we don't do good when our guards aren't playing well and when Brady Manek isn't hitting threes because they're able to clog the paint and Armando doesn't have the space that he needs to work. So going into the tournament, that's something we're going to need to work on is, shooting good and our guards to play good. And hopefully we can win a couple games and make it out the first weekend this year because I still haven't got over how we got smacked by Wisconsin last year. That was just a bad matchup for us. They had a lot of experience. So.
Well, and it's interesting too about North Carolina because you mentioned they're not deep at all. That's concerning. They played Virginia Tech twice in the regular season. In the 2 games combined, they had 5 bench points in those 2 games. They're not deep. And if Brady Manek is not hitting those threes, which he was not on what night was that? Friday night against Virginia Tech, then it's rough. Armando Bacot is a great player. He would have been my vote for ACC Player of the Year. Obviously, Alondas Williams, very deserving. But Armando Bacot would have gotten my vote if I had one. But he can't do it all on his own. And we seen in that regular season finale against Duke what North Carolina can be when Bacot and Manek are firing on all cylinders, Caleb Love too, and then you put RJ Davis in there, and then it really gets – North Carolina could beat just about anybody when those 4 are clicking. But I didn't think North Carolina played very well against Virginia either. And I think that's almost the most concerning thing about this is they followed up that emotional win over Duke with 2 really bad games. If Virginia in the first half was 5 of 27 from the field, if they were 10 of 27 in the first half, Virginia probably wins that game. So that was 2 pretty poor performances from North Carolina. So I think Duke and North Carolina both have a lot to worry about, and we'll probably get into it. North Carolina, if they beat Marquette, which isn't a given, more than likely they've got to deal with Baylor.
And basically what's going to be a home game for Baylor in Fort Worth. But yeah, like you said, I think what affected Caleb Love was having to chase Storm Murphy around around the court because he doesn't stop moving. And I liked how Caleb, he was trying to stick with him as much as he could, but that takes your legs having to do that for a whole game. And like you were saying, in the 2 previous games against Virginia Tech, we didn't have a lot of bench points, but their bench didn't really do much either. And then Maddox, he had 20 points, and that killed us because Coach Davis, he doesn't, have much confidence in his bench for whatever reason. First-year coach. So we depend on our starters a lot, and if Armando Bacot gets in trouble, foul trouble, we're pretty much in big trouble because we don't have any size outside him. With Dawson Garcia, he had to leave the team. He was dealing with some family issues. So yeah, that's very concerning as we head into March. And like you said, if Virginia was could hit any type of shots, we would have been in trouble that game because our offense really didn't travel with us to Brooklyn. And really quickly, I think the ACC tournament should stay in the South. When I think about these conference tournaments, I think about locations. Like when I think the Big Ten, I think Indianapolis. When I think the Big East, I think New York. But when I think of the ACC, I don't think of Brooklyn. You know, it needs to be here in North Carolina or somewhere here in the South. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I'm glad it's coming back to Greensboro next year, and then I think it's going to DC. So,
Yeah.
so you kind of alluded to it. What are some things that Duke needs to do to have a deep tournament run?
Honestly, they need someone. You would expect that to be Paolo Banchero, but just someone. Someone needs to have a killer instinct on this team. I've watched just about every Duke game this year. A lot of the games seem like replays because they play out very similarly. Paolo Banchero has huge first halves. I don't know where he goes in second halves. I could probably count on one hand and maybe have fingers left over on games that he has had an equal to or better second half than he had the first half. And really what would be concerning is that showed up night one against Kentucky, very first night of the season. He had cramps in the second half of the Kentucky game, and they had to take him out of the game for big chunks at a time to massage the cramps. Then it started happening again in the second half of the Ohio State game. Both of those were very early in the season, and you could make an excuse for that a little bit early in the season. Now, granted, I have not heard of him coming out of a game in conference play because of cramps, but I see a lot of games where Paolo Banchero, he'll go off for 15, 18 points in the first half, then he'll have 5 in the second. I don't think he takes over games late the way he should. Now, you could say he doesn't have to because Duke's plenty talented enough, but someone's got to. I have not seen Banchero do it really at all this year. I've seen AJ Griffin do it maybe once, the game against Virginia. At Virginia, he went off last 3 minutes. He closed that game out. Jeremy Roach has only done it once, and that was in the ACC tournament against Syracuse. Trevor Keels has not done it. Mark Williams has not done it. They need someone that they can look to in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game and say, you go get us buckets, you go get us defensive stops. I truly think Paolo Banchero could do that. I just haven't seen it yet. That's what I think. If Duke gets that, then they could win the national championship because they're just as talented as anyone. But they have lost a lot of close games. All of their losses, except for really the North Carolina game, has been close. They lost to Florida State when they scored on the last possession of regulation to force overtime. They lost the Ohio State game because Ohio State went on a big run in the last 3 minutes. They lost the Virginia game basically at the buzzer on the shot by Reese Beekman. That's been the story of the year for Duke, is when you get to the last 4 minutes, if you're close with Duke, you've got a good chance because they have not been winning close games. They've really only won a couple all year. I get off the top of my head, the home game against Wake Forest and the road game at Virginia is it. They have to find someone to close out games.
Yeah, like you were saying, Paulo, what really frustrates me is like you can see he has an advantage, you know, driving to the basket, and then he'll start shooting jump shots. So
Yeah.
I think if he realized that he can go to the goal anytime he wants and not settle for those jump shots when they're not falling, I think that could be scary. And like you said, Duke opens up against a very tough Cal State Fullerton team in Greenville, South Carolina. So they'll be close to home. They'll probably have a lot of Duke fans that will travel to Greenville Friday, and they'll get the winner of Michigan State and Davidson. So
Playing in South Carolina, by the way, in the tournament recent years have not been great for Duke. They lost a game in the state of South Carolina to South Carolina in 2017. And then in 2019, they played in that state and remember nearly lost to UCF in the second round.
yeah, that was in South Carolina. So So I'm hoping Duke can send Coach K out the right way. The last 2 Saturdays they've embarrassed Coach K, and I know he hasn't been too happy about that. So we'll have to see. For me, I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about us in the ACC tournament. We need to shoot well. Armando Bacot can't get in foul trouble. Brady Manek needs to be on fire the next 6 games, hopefully. And our guards, they need to play at an elite level, because if they're struggling, we're probably going to get the doors blown off us. And hopefully we can find, 1 or 2 guys that can give us something off the bench. I think that would help. And I just hope Armando Bacot can stay out of foul trouble, because, like I said, if he gets in foul trouble, we're basically playing small ball.
Yeah.
And if Brady Manek has to play the 5, he's probably going to get a lot of points scored on him, because he's doesn't need to play the 5. He needs to play the power forward position, because Brady isn't the biggest power forward. So that's what we need to do. We open up against Marquette. Shaka Smart has had our number. So hopefully, since we have a different offensive scheme now, where we just have 1 big and then we have basically 4 guys on the outside, and we try to give Armando as much space as he needs in the paint to work. Basically, what I've been reading, previewing the game, they say we should have the advantage inside, because apparently Marquette does not have anybody to deal with Armando Bacot. They're probably doubling, most likely, and then our shooters will have to knock down shots, and we'll have to shut down their 2 guys, Justin Lewis, and I think the other guy's name was Marcel or something like that. And basically that's their offense. So shutting down those guys. And if we get past Marquette, it's crazy. Last year we were matched up with Baylor if we had won, and this year it's the same way. And I know I was already looking ahead to the Baylor game last year, and then we got the doors blown off us. So I'm just gonna focus on Marquette Thursday at 4:30. And then we'll have to worry about basically a road game against Baylor on Saturday.
You guys played in an 8-9 game last year against a team from Wisconsin, and you're doing it again with Marquette. And Marquette's a really good team. They beat Illinois, they beat Providence, the Big East regular season champions, and they beat the Big East tournament champions Villanova too, and Seton Hall. So that's 4 teams that they beat that are in the field. Justin Lewis is probably the player to watch for Marquette. Really good player, over 17 points a game.
Yeah, we'll probably put Leaky Black on him, because we usually put Leaky on on the other team's best players. So that's what we'll probably do. So which first 4 team do you think can make a run? Because every year we always have a team from the first 4 that gets hot and they make a run. Last year UCLA made it all the way to the Final 4. So for me, I was thinking either Notre Dame or Rutgers. Just Notre Dame, the way they can shoot it. And yeah, they have a special team, and I think if they could get some momentum, I think they play Tuesday. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, and they could carry that into the tournament, and they could cause some problems, for teams in their bracket. So,
yeah,
how about you?
I was the easy answer to this is probably Rutgers, because of the teams that they have beaten this season. Rutgers had one of the most polarizing resumes of a team in a long time. They have some great wins. They've beaten Purdue, they've beaten Ohio State, they've beaten Wisconsin. They have great wins over the top of their conference in the Big Ten. But the craziest thing I've ever seen is the losses that Rutgers has to go with those wins. Rutgers early in the season, they lost to Lafayette, they lost to UMass, they lost to DePaul, they almost lost to Lehigh, they almost lost to Merrimack. It's been a strange season for Rutgers with those losses combined with those wins. So I think Rutgers would be the easy answer to that, but I'm going to give you Indiana. Now, Wyoming is very good. The Mountain West had a big season as a conference. They had terrific teams night in and night out in the Mountain West with some great games. But I give you Indiana because Trace Jackson Davis is a nightmare for opposing teams.
Yes.
He can go off for 25 points, 10 rebounds any given night. So I'm going to give you Indiana because I think Trace Jackson Davis is just enough to get them by Wyoming. And then he's going to have to be big against St. Mary's, which is who they would slide into, because St. Mary's plays an extremely physical brand of ball. So if they get by Wyoming, play St. Mary's, it's going to be Trace Jackson Davis and the other bigs to beat St. Mary's, because I tell you what, there is no one in the country. There's plenty of teams more talented than St. Mary's. I don't think there's teams tougher than St. Mary's physically. But I'm going to give you Indiana because Trace Jackson Davis is just that good.
Yeah, I could see them because they kind of got hot at the end of the season and they kind of made some noise in the Big Ten tournament. So I could definitely see that. So let's do some rapid fire over-unders here. How many double-digit seeds will advance to the Sweet 16? Over or under 4?
Over. This has been, again, a wild college basketball season. College basketball is always wild. It's only going to get more so with the transfer portal. It creates more opportunities for more teams. I think you're going to see over that mark of double-digit seeds get to the Sweet 16. Because, I mean, just think of the double-digit seeds you have. We just mentioned Indiana and Rutgers. If they win their first 4 game, you've got Davidson. You've got Virginia Tech, who just got super hot in the ACC tournament. UAB and Chattanooga are right together in the South. I think both of those teams could win their first round game and play each other. Loyola Chicago. I think you could get a lot, not only over that number, you could get 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I definitely went with the over on that one, just because, like you said, we got some really solid double-digit seeds. I think South Dakota State, Providence better watch out for them because I was not expecting Creighton to blow the doors off them, but Providence can throw it in the ocean when they play Creighton. Yeah, we just got a lot of double-digit seeds that's going to probably cause some problems for the lower seeds. So I'm definitely going to take the over on that one. How many number 1 seeds do you think will lose opening weekend? Over or under 2?
On the opening weekend, I'm going to go under. Gonzaga is interesting because they're the best team. I don't know if anyone is against them having the number 1 overall seed. But if they play Boise State in the second round, which I think there's a good chance of that happening, Boise State's going to slow that game down as much as they can. Now, it's going to be hard to slow Gonzaga down, but Boise State's going to try to make it into a rock fight. They want that game to be played in the 50s, if at all possible. But if it's played in the 60s, they could win that way too. But I think Gonzaga will get by them. Arizona's going to have it tough either way because Seton Hall and TCU are both good. Kansas, I think, could handle San Diego State or Creighton. The problem with Kansas is I have trust issues with that team because Bill Self has had high seeds many, many times. And, well, Northern Iowa in 2010 comes to mind. But I guess the easy answer with this would be Baylor. And it's not that I don't like Baylor as a team. It's not that. They're injured. They have a good body of work, but they don't have many bodies available that put in that body of work. They are a very injured team right now, and whether it's North Carolina or Marquette, they could be in for a real problem. Now, you mentioned it earlier. The advantage for Baylor is that they're playing in Fort Worth, so basically home games, which would be an advantage. But I don't know how healthy Baylor's going to be going into the first and second round games.
Yeah, I went under on that one because the only one that I could really see getting eliminated this weekend was Baylor because, like you said, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. And I saw an article that said North Carolina could give them problems just because of the way North Carolina can rebound the ball.
Yep.
And so that'd be something to monitor. The winner of North Carolina and Marquette could give them trouble Saturday. So
Absolutely.
And who knows? I don't know. Norfolk State, can they be another 16 seed? Who knows?
I mean, listen, Norfolk State's really good, and it's also a team that made the tournament last year and won a first 4 game. And we know this time of year, experience is priceless. So I would be willing to say that if any 16 seed, the 16 seed with the best chance is probably Norfolk State.
That they probably have the best of the 16 seeds, like you said. And you remember that time when Virginia got upset, and then we got free Little Caesars. That was fun. But yeah, they have the best chance. Anything can happen. I think this is going to be a crazy tournament, so we have to see. And then the final one I have is, how many number one seeds do you think will make the Final Four? Over or under 3?
Under, for basically the same reasons we just mentioned. Baylor's injured, and I just don't trust Kansas. Listen, Kansas might be the most talented team in this tournament. If they're not the most talented, they're second, third, or fourth. That's how talented they are. Clearly, they're number one seed. But again, I just have trust issues. I'm thinking back, like I said, to 2010. They were a number one seed. They were the number one overall seed. They lost to Northern Iowa in the second round. The next year, they had what most people would say would be a cupcake walk to the Final Four. They lost to VCU in the Elite Eight. A couple of years after that, they lost to Wichita State in the second round. They lost to Stanford recently in the second round. I just have trust issues with Kansas. Last year, they almost lost to Eastern Washington in the first round. And they got they got their doors blown off by USC in the Sweet 16 last year. I just have trust issues with Kansas. I mean, they lost that game to USC by like 30 points.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, so I'm thinking under 2. I'm going with Gonzaga and Arizona. I think they'll make it. But the bottom 2, Kansas and Baylor, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, I just don't trust Bill Self in the postseason. And Baylor, maybe if they were healthier, maybe I would have a little more confidence in them. But they're unfortunately not healthy right now, and that's really unfortunate as they try to defend their national championship. So, to close out the show, why don't we talk about who we have in our Final Four and national championship? As I have my Zoom background as New Orleans, because that's where the Final Four is this year in beautiful New Orleans. So, who do you have in your Final Four, and who do you have winning it all?
Well, between now and Thursday, I'm going to change this 137 times because it's really that unpredictable. And I'm never one that loves to go all chalk, but it seems very likely that Gonzaga and Arizona are going to meet up. Who knows if it happens, but it seems likely. But here's what I got right now. And again, I could change this within the next hour. But here's what I've got right now. I've got Gonzaga coming out of the West, beating Texas Tech. I've got Gonzaga beating Texas Tech in the West final. In the East, I've got UCLA beating Virginia Tech in the Elite Eight. I've got Virginia Tech staying on their roll. I've got them beating Texas, Purdue, and then I've actually got Virginia Tech beating Murray State, in case you're interested. I've got Murray State beating Kentucky.
I wouldn't mind that.
I just mentioned that Wichita State beat Kansas a handful of years back. Remember the emotion in that game because Wichita State had been claiming they've been trying to play Kansas in the regular season for years, and Kansas kept dodging them. Same story here with Murray State and Kentucky. They are in-state opponents. Murray State wants to play them. Kentucky keeps saying no, or at least that's what Murray State says. They might get their chance here. If they do, I think Murray State wins. Therefore, UCLA over Virginia Tech to the Final Four. In the South, I think Arizona and Tennessee meet in the regional final. They met once in the regular season. Tennessee won in Knoxville. I want so badly, because I love this Tennessee team. They play great defense. I want so badly to put Tennessee in the Final Four. But if they play Arizona again, I think Arizona will get them the second time. And then in the Midwest, I have trust issues with all of these teams. I really, really do. I've got Iowa beating Kansas in the Sweet 16. Oh, gosh.
That's the one I struggle with.
This is so difficult because I was on Auburn for a long time this season on their legit. Their backcourt has been not good lately. And I think Auburn could lose to Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's solid. I don't want to put Iowa in the Final Four because I feel like a lot of people are going crazy on Iowa now. They win the Big Ten, everybody's falling in love with them. I got to make up my mind sooner or later. I'm going to go with craziness down here in the Midwest. I'm going to go with Miami to beat Iowa in the regional final because I think Miami matches up well with USC, and I think they match up well with Auburn if Auburn gets through. LSU's up top, so is Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin might lose to Colgate. Colgate's just that good. They've come close to winning their first round game the last two tournaments against Tennessee and Arkansas. So I don't think Miami ends up meeting Wisconsin. I think they end up meeting LSU. They'll beat them. And then I've got them beating Iowa. So I'll go Gonzaga, UCLA, Arizona, Miami, I guess. But anyone could come out of the Midwest.
Really, anyone could. Well, I have Gonzaga coming out of the West. I have UCLA coming out of the East. Like you said, I think Virginia Tech is going to make a run. I think they're going to keep the momentum from the ACC tournament because, like you said, they're so hard to deal with. And like Coach K was saying, that's not a team you want to just try to prepare for in 24 hours. Good Lord. And then I have Arizona coming out the South. And I like your Miami pick out of the Midwest because, ooh, gracious, there's a lot of teams that I don't have a lot of faith in that bracket. But I think Miami, they have a lot of great guards and they can really shoot the ball.
Yeah. They can really spread you out. They will put all five of their guys in the perimeter. They can drive and pull up. Cam McGusty is one of the best at doing that, the Oklahoma transfer.
He's tough, boy.
Yeah, if Miami were to play Kansas, Cam McGusty knows Kansas well from his days at Oklahoma, actually.
That's true.
And they can hit threes with him. They can hit threes with Wardenberg.
Yeah, so and then I have Gonzaga and Arizona meeting in the national championship game, and I have Gonzaga finally breaking through. They've been so close. I think they finally get it done this year. They brought a lot of great pieces back from last year's team after Baylor smacked them in the national championship game. I wasn't expecting that. And I think they finally get it done, and I'll be happy for Gonzaga because they've been so close, and then they get their heart broken. So I hope they pull through this year, finally.
Yeah, I've got Gonzaga and UCLA in meeting up again in the Final Four, and that would be so interesting, wouldn't it, if they did, because they met up in the Final Four last year, and it was one of the best games ever. They met up earlier this year, remember, though, before Thanksgiving. Gonzaga won by 20.
Yeah, I was surprised.
So if they meet up again, I can't imagine UCLA will lose by 20. I would have Gonzaga winning it. And I think I've got Arizona making it through. Like I said, I don't want to go chalk, but at some point you've got to make some kind of sense, I guess, out of it. But I've got Arizona winning it. I think Arizona has been lying in the weeds a lot this season. I don't know if people have totally been paying attention to them because they're on the West Coast. And I think over the last, the last handful of years that Arizona's been good, we kind of discredited them because we had trust issues in their coach, remember? And they would always have early exits in the tournament. Like they did that one year to Buffalo. And they would just not live up to the hype when they got to March. So I think a lot of people have been looking at them this year as if they're saying, yeah, this is going to be same Arizona, but it's not. They've got a new coach, Tommy Lloyd. And may I just add, if they were to meet Gonzaga in the final, Tommy Lloyd was an assistant coach at Gonzaga under Mark Few for 20 years.
That could be interesting.
20 years. That's a long time to learn somebody, get to know basketball from somebody. So if they were to meet up in the final, I think I would give the edge to Arizona because of Tommy Lloyd and, of course, because of Benedict Mathurin, who is going to be a lottery pick. That guy is absolutely amazing. Again, a guy that maybe not a lot of people know about because you got to stay up a long time to watch Arizona games sometimes. But Benedict Mathurin is legit.
Yes, I remember I had turned on and saw them play Stanford, and the first thing that came to mind was how how much size they have. I was like, good gracious, they're a big team. So I think they're going to cause a lot of problems in their bracket. And then whoever comes out of the Midwest, I think it's going to be chaos in the Midwest. Whoever comes out of that region, they'll have to deal with Arizona, and I think that'll be the end of their season. And then like you said, Tommy Lloyd, he knows Mark Few very well. They spent 20 years together, so that would be very intriguing if they met up in the national championship game. So I can't wait see how this all plays out.
A lot of fun.
So thank you for joining the show, bro. This was so much fun. Previewing March Madness. I can't wait to watch all the games this weekend. I'm gonna have 4 games on all my devices Thursday, Friday, and it's gonna be fun. So thank you again for joining the show, bro.
Absolutely. Anytime. A lot of fun.